Chapter 43, Innate Soul Refining Technique. After breaking through to the human god realm, Lin Jufeng realized that a human god was just someone standing at a different summit than the others. The lowest lifespan of a human god was 800 years. Lin Jufeng had enough time up his sleeves. Now that the Buddhist sects of the Jiangnan province had submitted and obeyed the imperial decree, the next 3 months would be the assimilation of those who believe in Buddhism and the annexation of their territories and assets. The gilded Buddha statues, the occupied lands, the high-quality fields, and the millions of laborers would greatly strengthen the Yuhua God dynasty. Lin Tianyuan would certainly be occupied handling all of these. After the 2 paintings appeared in Jiangnan province, the world became quiet. At first, with the appearance of the rain that strengthened every cultivator's strength, martial sages became abundant throughout the land. Thus, the Yuhua God dynasty's threat in the eyes of its enemies had diminished. If nothing had happened, its enemies would inevitably reappear and cause chaos in the entire Yuhua God dynasty. Furthermore, the Yuhua God dynasty certainly didn't have the ability to deal with a catastrophe of this scale. But all of a sudden, a human god appeared and suppressed the Buddhist sects along with the entire world. The human god's appearance alleviated the great danger that the Yuhua God dynasty was facing and also gave them a lot of time and respite. This was the last thing that Lin Jufeng did for Lin Tianyuan. He gave Lin Tianyuan enough time to accumulate and consolidate the strength of the empire for it to maintain its dignity in this brand new world. Of course, Lin Jufeng was also ultimately preventing the destruction of the recently established reforms. Therefore, Lin Tianyuan was very busy. Lin Jufeng was also occupied. He was busy with his cultivation after having made his breakthrough. After entering the human god realm, his cultivation was no longer simply qi cultivation, qi absorption, qi accumulation, and opening up new meridians. If he wanted to advance in his current realm, he had to cultivate his divine soul, observe the world's forces, and comprehend the principles of the world itself. With these conditions, the difficulty of his cultivation had understandably increased. Fortunately, Lin Jufeng could cultivate in silence. Thus, there was no need for him to worry. After all, no one was here to disturb him. While the world was still in a heated discussion over the appearance of a human god, Lin Jufeng had already begun the next steps in his cultivation. Lin Jufeng could perfectly inherit both aspects of progressing steadily and improving quickly. He was capable of both stable progression and speedy advancement. But he planned on consolidating his cultivation for a while and accumulating enough experience so that he could advance by leaps and bounds at once. Lin Jufeng couldn't hear the rumors from the outside world. Hence, he signed in quietly in the cold palace. His only companion was the white cat. On this day, Lin Jufeng asked the white cat, "You followed the demon lord last time, so how much do you know about the human god realm?" The white cat used its small white paws to write, "I heard from the demon lord that there are many obstacles in the human god realm. It seems to be called something like serene, immortal treasury, ultimate man, or something like that." The white cat's writing was all over the place. Its memory seemed to be blurry as it kept erasing some words and changing them into something else. Lin Jufeng shook his head, speechless. In the end, he chose to leave the cold palace for the royal library. Here, he could check relevant documents concerning the human god realm. The white cat also came along. It was also very curious. What obstacles were there in the human god realm? Upon arriving, Lin Jufeng swaggered into the heavily guarded library. No one discovered him. A few years ago on his last visit to the royal library, no one noticed Lin Jufeng's visit. It was even more impossible for someone to notice him by now. The library was huge and there were records from different periods and epochs. Lin Jufeng had previously investigated the demonic sects. This time, he looked for the records related to Taoist schools. In terms of research on the divine soul, Taoist schools were superior. As a result, Lin Jufeng naturally wanted to use their literature as his reference. A line of words appeared in front of Lin Jufeng when he stepped into the area where records related to Taoist schools were being kept and preserved. "Do you want to sign in before the Taoist library?" "Sign in." Lin Jufeng agreed. "Sign in successful." Received the innate soul refining technique. Waves of memories entered Lin Jufeng's sea of consciousness. He was used to it by now, so he could maintain his calm. A peculiar book appeared. The obscurity of the words contained within would probably cause the minds of ordinary people to spin in confusion. But the waves of memories that Lin Jufeng had just received gave him enough knowledge. He had no problems in understanding the material he was holding. This is a cultivation technique that cultivates the soul. It suits me perfectly. Lin Jufeng nodded in satisfaction. Meow. The white cat appeared beside Lin Jufeng. It called out softly. It couldn't understand why Lin Jufeng was in a daze. Lin Jufeng woke up from his trance, but he didn't say anything. He smiled gently at the white cat before proceeding inside the area for literature related to Taoist schools. The place was packed with Taoism-related books. After 400 years, every Taoist book out there might not be in the Yuhua God dynasty's royal library, however, most of them could be found here. The remaining 10 to 20% of precious Taoist books and scriptures were kept hidden by the Taoist sects. The Yuhua God dynasty couldn't possibly obtain them. However, this was enough for Lin Jufeng to see. He set aside the innate soul refining technique and focused on reading the Taoist books. The books recorded many things about the human god realm. There were also things that the white cat had said, such as serene, immortal treasury, ultimate man, and so on. Lin Jufeng finally understood. The term, human god, was a general name, just like, martial sage. The martial sage realm was divided into profound insight, life-knowing, fish leap, and great sage. The human god realm was divided into serene, immortal treasury, ultimate, and nirvana. Lin Jufeng was now at the serene stage. It was no longer a step, but a stage. Serene was an adjective. It was like a secret chamber, pitch black like ink, extremely quiet. A human god had given birth to the divine soul that remained locked in this secret chamber, unable to break free. The divine soul existed all alone in this dark place. To make a breakthrough into the next stage of the human god realm, one must allow their divine soul to escape from this secret chamber so that it could see the world. The white cat was also reading the records. It suddenly started to have hopes for its own future. Perhaps if it cultivated seriously, would it also be able to make its own breakthrough? If it worked harder and managed to surpass Lin Jufeng, how satisfying would it be? At the thought of this, the white cat's eyes curved into a smile. It looked very cute. Lin Jufeng turned around and looked at the expression on the white cat's face. His face was completely devoid of emotions. When the white cat opened its eyes and saw Lin Jufeng's expressionless face, it immediately restrained itself and hurriedly wrote. Continue reading. Shaking his head, Lin Jufeng replied, I don't know what you're so happy about every day. Could it be that a silly cat also has its silly fortune? Lin Jufeng muttered in confusion. The white cat was angered. Even its claws came out as it raised its paw and gestured at Lin Jufeng's face. However, it was still worried that its claws wouldn't be able to cut through Lin Jufeng's skin. In addition, it would be even more embarrassing if it ended up getting injured even though it was the one who attacked. As a result, it retracted its claws. After reading every Taoist book in this area of the royal library, Lin Jufeng learned a lot about the human god realm. We cultivators still have a long way to go. Lin Jufeng sighed with emotion before turning around and leaving the royal library. After returning to the cold palace, Lin Jufeng laid on the frost jade bed and pondered silently. Although the frost jade bed was of no help to him anymore, Lin Jufeng still preferred to lie on it. Because it was cool and comfortable. It was for pure comfort and enjoyment. Even the white cat was enamored with it after it had accidentally discovered its magical effect. Now, when it had nothing to do, it would come up to rest on it too. Curling up into a ball, it became a tiny little fellow that didn't occupy a lot of space. Facing the same direction as Lin Jufeng, it even slept together with him. This time, it also curled up on the bed and looked at Lin Jufeng. Then, it closed its eyes and worked hard in its cultivation so that it could suppress Lin Jufeng under its claws as soon as possible. Let's try using this innate soul refining technique. Soon enough, Lin Jufeng also closed his eyes. Chapter 44, Breaking Through from Watching the Rain. Innate Soul Refining Technique. This was a technique to cultivate the divine soul, strengthening it to the extent that it could transform into a human form before eventually becoming an avatar of its owner. Lin Jufeng's divine soul currently an enormous consciousness that had yet to take form. But this technique would help him consolidate his divine soul for it to form. After using the innate soul refining technique, Lin Jufeng's consciousness started to shrink as it slowly turned into a ball. Lin Jufeng's divine soul in human form was gestating inside this ball. Once it was sufficiently mature, the divine soul would then be able to come out of the ball in its human form. By that time, Lin Jufeng would be able to break through to the next stage. When cultivating this technique, the most important prerequisite was silence. Extreme silence. And the cold palace truly satisfied this condition. The birth of a human god caused peace in the world and increased the power and prestige of the Yuhua god dynasty. Especially when the abbot of Shaolin Temple and the Xuankong Temple knelt down to receive the imperial decree. This brought Lin Tianyuan immense might and everyone couldn't help but tremble at the thought of that imperial decree. Although this was because he had borrowed Lin Jufeng's power, as long as Lin Tianyuan handled the situation well, the Yuhua god dynasty would surely prosper. 3 years slowly passed. In the past 3 years, Lin Jufeng had never left the cold palace. Lin Jufeng even instructed Dakin not to any send food and drinks for these few years. He wanted to enter seclusion. Dakin could only agree. Therefore, in these 3 years, the doors of the cold palace were tightly shut. The cold palace remained peaceful, but a storm was brewing outside. There were even more martial sages right now than great grandmasters back then. The influence of that rain gradually spread throughout the world. As time passed, the spirit energy in the world increased and every cultivator's breakthrough had become relatively easier to accomplish. Lin Tianyuan made use of Lin Jufeng's influence to recruit a bunch of martial sages. At the same time, he was also grooming martial sages himself. The results weren't bad. He found a bunch of young talents and used the resources of the empire to nurture them. Even without Lin Jufeng's backing, Lin Tianyuan had fully displayed his capabilities as he increased the might of the Yuhua god dynasty. There were now hundreds of martial sages in the Yuhua god dynasty. Even if these martial sages had different thoughts and plans in their heads, this force was still the most powerful force in the world at this moment. Not to mention the fact that there was a human god above them. Although Lin Jufeng said that he wouldn't help anymore, no one knew anything about the conversation between the two back then. Over the past 3 years, Lin Tianyuan had become more and more domineering. In addition, he had also gotten rid of Lin Jufeng's influence on him. The current Lin Tianyuan was the ruler of the world, both in mentality and reality. On top of the foundation that Emperor Yuan had set for him, he had walked onto an emperor path of his own. He was the ruler of the world. His words were absolute. No one could refute him. It was also in this year that Lin Tianyuan started to choose his concubines. After working hard for more than 10 years, he finally completed the reform of the Yuhua god dynasty. The world was flourishing and the people were living in peace. He felt that he had completed his father's final wish. Therefore, he wanted to choose a concubine. When awake, he was the ruler of the world. When drunk, he would rest on the lap of a beauty. He had already completed the former. Now he wanted to accomplish the latter. Momentarily, all the beauties in the world entered the imperial capital. Hundreds of flowers fought to display their beauty, like the stars glowing in the dark. Also this year, a woman called Mei Niang was chosen to enter the imperial harem. 3 years had passed and Lin Jufeng had always been nurturing his divine soul this whole time. The divine soul inside the ball of consciousness already had a human form. It was extremely powerful. But his divine soul still needed a catalyst, an opportunity so that it could finally leave the ball and go outside Lin Jufeng's body to move as freely as the birds in the skies. Lin Jufeng wasn't in a hurry. He waited patiently for that opportunity. He witnessed all the major events that happened in the imperial capital throughout the years. Even without Dakin's report, Lin Jufeng could still see everything with his divine soul. It was just that he was too lazy to look and take on what was happening outside into his mind. Only the commotion caused by Lin Tianyuan choosing his concubines truly made a mark on his brain. In regards to this, Lin Jufeng only frowned. He somewhat felt that this wasn't appropriate. It has only been a few years since the reforms were completed and put into practice. The common populace still hadn't even adjusted to these changes yet. But Lin Tianyuan was already starting to choose his concubines in order to indulge himself. Wasn't he already married? His wife had also become the empress. But Lin Jufeng didn't reprimand him. Over the 10+ years since he ascended to the throne, Lin Tianyuan had been rather hard at work. He learned from Emperor Yuan's example and worked hard to complete the reforms. In the middle of it, he relied on Lin Jufeng to eliminate every obstacle on his way. For the latter stages, he settled the remaining problems by himself. Now, he wanted to choose a concubine to relax after working so hard after all these years. What excuse did Lin Jufeng have to stop him? Not everyone is like Yuan Emperor. Lin Jufeng lamented under the moonlight. That younger brother of his had really been working hard over the 10+ years of his reign. He truly had never enjoyed himself even for a moment. Lin Tianyuan couldn't do the same. But what reason did Lin Jufeng have to reprimand him? Therefore, Lin Jufeng stopped paying attention to the outside world as he continued to focus on accumulating his strength. The moon looked gloomy tonight. It was dim. One could vaguely see the formation of dark clouds up above the skies. The white cat walked over with light footsteps. Looking at the sky, it wrote, "A heavy rain seems to be pouring over tonight." After 3 years, it had become much stronger. Just that it still couldn't speak. Lin Jufeng didn't try to probe its body to find out as to why the white cat was unable to speak. It was because the last time he did so, the white cat became furious. The exasperated white cat back then chased after him, incessantly trying to scratch him. For 3 whole months, the white cat ignored him. Lin Jufeng stopped probing into the white cat's body since then. Yes, there will be rain and also lightning tonight. Lin Jufeng nodded. Schwash. As soon as he finished speaking, the rain started falling. It landed on the ground and created a splash, drenching Lin Jufeng and the white cat. A human and a cat looked at each other. In unison, the two of them retreated to the eaves of the courtyard. The two of them didn't speak as they enjoyed the rain that was becoming heavier and heavier as it washed and cleansed the world. A handsome young man and a white kitten observed the rain under the eaves. No unnecessary words were exchanged. Boom. Suddenly, thunder rumbled. Then, a bolt of lightning struck down. Crack. Lightning lit up the dark night. It also illuminated Lin Jufeng. He suddenly had a flash of inspiration. The ball in his mind seemed to have been struck by lightning too. The human-shaped divine soul broke through the ball and appeared behind Lin Jufeng. Lin Jufeng and the white cat stood side by side. The moon was completely covered by dark clouds. Only when lightning struck down occasionally could one see some light. The shadow of the white cat and Lin Jufeng lengthened. However, another Lin Jufeng was illuminated behind Lin Jufeng when the lightning flashed. His divine soul had left his body. At this moment, Lin Jufeng watched the rain and broke through. He broke through the serene stage, entering the next stage. Immortal Treasury. Great Yan Dynasty, Temple of the Holy Maiden. It was raining heavily outside, and the moonlight was obscured by the dark clouds. There was also lightning and thunder. The Holy Maiden who had endured for decades was silently watching the rain. Her aura slowly rose. A golden light flashed through her eyes. The sight of this was terrifying, however, no one witnessed such a scene. I've been in this world for decades. My body was injured and I have always been in the process of recovery since then. Only now have I fully recovered from my injuries. Today, I shall watch the rain and breakthrough. Advance to the human god realm. The Holy Maiden aura was aggressive and her eyes flickered with golden flames. She raised her slender neck and her beautiful face was filled with pride. Her aura wasn't concealed at all. Crack. A bolt of lightning cut through the darkness. Heavy rain poured down. The Holy Maiden's aura was undisguised as it soared into the clouds and broke through to the next realm. Human God realm. She flashed a faint smile. Finally, she was now a human god. But in the very next moment, the Holy Maiden's expression changed. Her divine soul trembled. She spat out a mouthful of blood. My divine soul is actually incomplete, the Holy Maiden exclaimed in astonishment. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. How could her divine soul be incomplete? She had been living in seclusion all these years. She did not owe anyone anything. Right. Chapter 45, The Enjoying Emperor Ming. On this rainy night, beneath the lightning and thunder, the Holy Maiden looked lost. Why was her divine soul incomplete? I have to think about this properly. The Holy Maiden began to think about her entire life so far in this world. She had to make up for this flaw to advance fearlessly. The Yuha God Dynasty, Imperial Capital, Cold Palace. Lin Jufeng had broken through to the next stage by watching the rain. His divine soul finally had a human form as he officially entered the Immortal Treasury stage of the human god realm. The goal of the Immortal Treasury stage is to open the treasures of the human body and unlock its ultimate secrets layer by layer to further widen the difference in strength between the stages and the realms. Lin Jufeng recalled the secret manual he had seen in the royal library. He needed to slowly unlock the secrets contained within his body for its infinite treasures. The Immortal Treasury stage was an unfamiliar realm to Lin Jufeng. Thus, the stage of trying to get used to his increase in power began. He didn't pay much attention to the outside world. On the other hand, Dakin's food delivery resumed. The time period for food delivery changed from once every 7 days to once a month. Lin Jufeng didn't need to consume food and drinks so frequently after all. To be honest, food had already become some form of a stimulant in life for him. It allowed him to satisfy his appetite once a month. Recently, the White Cat realized that Lin Jufeng had made yet another breakthrough. It was extremely discouraged as Lin Jufeng's breakthrough speed was just too fast. It couldn't catch up to him no matter how hard it tried. It became very dejected. However, Lin Jufeng could recently feel the strange eyes of the White Cat as it looked at him from a distance. The weird and peculiar gaze made Lin Jufeng feel uneasy towards it. As a result, he didn't go and purposely provoke it into action. Time passed by in the Yuha God dynasty. Lin Tianyuan's management of the empire has been remarkable. There was now an abundance of martial sages in the Yuha God dynasty. In short, there were powerful martial sages in both the army and in the imperial court. These martial sages followed Lin Tianyuan's command. As a result, he became even more arrogant. His policy had to be implemented. Even if the cabinet ministers said it was wrong, he insisted on it. Lin Tianyuan believed that he wouldn't make any mistakes, that his policy was good for the citizens. If the citizens objected or didn't like his policies, it must be because the officials below didn't carry out his orders thoroughly. On top of that, after that time when he chose some concubines, countless beauties entered the palace. Every day, he would be with one or several of them at once. Lin Tianyuan had become incredibly busy. During this time, his favorite concubine was a woman called Mei Niang. He was now resting in Mei Niang's palace every night. He wouldn't go to the empress nor to the side of the other concubines. The Yuha God dynasty was quietly going through a few changes. Of course, Lin Jufeng didn't know about the situation as he was cultivating quietly in the cold palace. Silently breaking through. Few if not, no people would choose to come to the cold palace. There was only him and the White Cat behind its sturdy doors. Occasionally, they would bicker, while sometimes, they would cultivate separately and away from each other. While the other was cultivating, none of them would disturb the other. Time continued to pass like this until Dakin came to deliver food once again. Once a month, Dakin would always arrive punctually, never slacking off. Dakin's food delivery only happened once a month, he always arrived on time. He also had never once slacked. He was now a commander of the Imperial Guards. He held a lofty position for he was in charge of guarding the Forbidden City, arresting traitors against the crown, and a personal lackey of the emperor. But he was still extremely respectful toward Lin Jufeng. As usual, he told Lin Jufeng about what had recently happened in the imperial capital. 3 years ago, Lin Jufeng didn't let him deliver food. It was only until recently did he start to deliver food to him once again. On this day, Dakin came as usual for his monthly food delivery service and also as a bringer of news. "Your Royal Highness, how have you been these 3 years?" Dakin asked cordially. Behind the doors of the cold palace, Lin Jufeng smiled and said, "I'm fine, what about you?" "I'm not bad either. My cultivation level has increased and my second child has also been born. My official position has also been raised to one of the commanders of the Imperial Guards. I can be considered to be a lofty general now. It's all thanks to your Royal Highness," Dakin said gratefully. "This is your own effort, you don't have to thank me." Lin Jufeng shook his head. He chatted with Dakin over casual things. Dakin was extremely excited when he talked about his recent changes as he told Lin Jufeng about his gains in the past 3 years. Taking concubines and having children, getting promoted and gaining wealth, breaking through in cultivation. He had encountered all these things. They were all good things. Over the years, these happened one after another. Dakin didn't have a strong cultivation base and had yet to achieve the martial sage realm. He was only able to become a commander of the Imperial Guards because of Lin Tianyuan's grooming. After all, he was the only person who had interacted with Lin Jufeng. This was a way of showing respect to Lin Jufeng by proxy. Hence, Dakin became the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Guards. Although there were also other people in this position, Dakin was still very happy. He didn't have much ambition. His cultivation base was that of a great Grand Master and on a daily basis, he was in charge of the logistics within the Imperial Guards. Albeit, this was also his own choice despite his lofty position. "Your Royal Highness, do you know? In the capital, news of abolishing the current empress has been spreading like wildfire," Da Chun said softly. "Abolishing the current empress?" Lin Jufeng raised her brows and stopped drinking. He couldn't help but ask in surprise. "Yes. His Majesty is going to abolish the dignified and virtuous empress and turn a concubine into the empress," Da Chun explained. "Why?" Lin Jufeng asked with a frown. Lin Tianyuan met the current empress when they were young. They eventually decided to marry and had been supporting each other for almost 20 years since then. Their marriage bore fruit to a daughter and son. The two of them were the current eldest princess and the crown prince of the Yuha God dynasty. "I heard that he despises the empress for being immoral and being jealous of others," Da Chun said in a low voice. He was also indignant about this issue. Although he worshipped Lin Tianyuan for managing the Yuha God dynasty well all these years, he was still very unhappy about his handling of this matter. Was abolishing the empress for the sake of a concubine something a wise ruler would do? Has he gone crazy? Lin Jufeng was confused. How did the obedient Lin Tianyuan become like this? "Your Royal Highness, the entire imperial court has been in a heated argument over this matter. His Majesty hasn't issued a decree for the time being. It's just that he no longer goes to the Empress's palace anymore and is focused on pampering a single concubine." Da Chun sighed as he explained. He was sighing for the Empress. The Empress was a very virtuous woman. She had been in charge of the imperial harem for more than 10+ years and she had managed it well. But now, she was actually being despised by Emperor Ming. "Who's the concubine that he's favoring?" Lin Jufeng asked with a frown. "It's consort Ming, her name is Mei Niang. She's extremely beautiful and has bewitched His Majesty. Several concubines in the harem have been given the white silk one because they were jealous of consort Ming," Da Chun said in a low voice. "What foolish actions!" Lin Jufeng snorted coldly. "Did Emperor Ming make any mistake in the national affairs?" Lin Jufeng asked. "No." Da Chun shook her head. "That's still fine then. Let him argue with the civil and military officials about the imperial harem. I believe the civil and military officials won't let him abolish the empress," said Lin Jufeng. "Your Highness is right. The cabinet ministers are unanimously opposed to this matter. Right now, the court is strongly against this. If there's any other progress, I'll report it to you again," Da Chun nodded and said. Lin Jufeng finished a pot of wine and let Dakin take it away. He shook his head in the cold palace and said regretfully, "Perhaps Emperor Yuan was the aberrant." Emperor Yuan worked non-stop for 10+ years and he had never truly enjoyed the benefits of being in power. All he felt was the pressure of obtaining more power for the betterment of the world. He worked diligently until death, unwilling to seek his own enjoyment. However, Lin Tianyuan evidently couldn't do the same. It has been almost 2 decades since he succeeded to the throne. He had done well in the first 10+ years, implementing various reforms and even eliminating the Buddhist sects. But when these were done and completed, Lin Tianyuan felt that it was time for him to reap the fruits of his labor. Looking at the calm and peaceful world, he suddenly lost the motivation to move forward. He stopped in his tracks and focused on enjoying himself. Wine, beauties, and power slowly corroded his heart. He held great power and became arrogant because of it. He couldn't take in advice from those loyal to him anymore. In history, monarchs like Lin Tianyuan are the norm. There has only been one Emperor Yuan in history. Lin Jufeng sighed. This was why he said that Emperor Yuan was an aberrant.